Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast, and we are looking at play-up props on Tuesday in the NBA Cup here. Going to be having play-up props in this episode. Also have best bets up in a separate one. So make sure to subscribe to that page and continue to follow along with us. Also want to remind you that we do have the offer right now for anyone without a BetMGM sportsbook account. You can sign up as a new member. Get the use the code THELINES YT50. Get yourself up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet does not hit. Also get $50 in bonus bets regardless. So that's a nice little deal for you. If you don't yet have a BetMGM account, go ahead and make sure you use that code THELINES YT50 when you sign up. Nate, let's go ahead and jump into your first play-up prop here. A guy we're both supporting today, Mr. Coulibaly.
Yes, in a game with a 245 total, we got the Wizards hosting the Bulls. So over 21.5 points, rebounds, assists for the second-year man out of France. Much better player at home, as you would expect with young guys. The splits go up in terms of points and rebounds. We're talking 22 of points and rebounds. So, I'm tacking on the assists here because of the matchup, not because of that's what he does consistently. Although he does have 3+ assists in 6 of his last 8. The zeros coming against Detroit and Houston, teams that do a very good job limiting assists in general. Chicago does not. The most assists per game, most paint points, most points. They play at the fastest pace. And lately, they've been crushed by forwards even more because they don't have Pat Williams. So not a good matchup on the wing to deal with this athletic young man. He's kind of due for a big game. He's played 39 minutes per game in his last 2. I think he might have, the clearest path to minutes to be one of the most clear parts of the Wizards' future. You can talk about Alexander Sarr and when he's going to really get into the swing of things or how he's going to fare in this matchup against Vucevic. But I think Coulibaly has the matchup to just eat here in a game that should be up and down all over the floor. Just allow him to use his athleticism.
Yeah, he's definitely a good target for this game. Saw you had him in there and was already thinking about him as well. I've seen his usage continue to rise as well, and his involvement in the offense and his involvement like as a playmaker. Like we're saying, like he's got the ball in the wing with the ability and the freedom to do what he wants at that point. And I think that's a good idea. I'm not sure why they gave Kuz the money at this point still. I wasn't sure at the time. I'm not sure now. It's just he's just in the way, man. And that's one of the guys that he's in the way of is Bilal Coulibaly. But looks like like I said, his participation's increasing. So I like that look for him. I'm going to take someone on the other side of this game. I got props all day, baby, from this game. Like, what do you want? We got so many points to work with. Let me take Vooch. He's up to 20.5 now. I still am good with it, man. I like a Vooch 20+, Zach LaVine 20+, to be honest. Kobe White gets in the way too, so I'm not totally sure he and Zach LaVine, although Kobe's been playing a little bit more on ball, although Giddey's still the point guard. So I think Giddey assist is probably a look too. I would not be taking unders. Let me put it that way. Please don't do that in this game. But for Vooch, this is an awesome matchup in a game with a massive total against a team that is not guarding the center. It's not guarding above the break, and it's not guarding next to the paint. It's not guarding the post up, bottom 5, and everything I just said in terms of allowing points on all those types of plays. The most important one for Vooch being the pick and roll man, second to last as well. And like I said, the post up is a big one too, because he's going to be going up against Alexander Sarr unless they decide to start Joval just to have him out. The thing is, Joval has really good numbers against Vooch when they've played in a different situation where he's in New Orleans, obviously, and it's not the same as the Wizards. But either way, like in their matchups one-on-one, like this is a very good matchup for Vooch, bringing him out. So we'll see. But Sarr's been starting and he's been getting minutes and he's been getting increased minutes and he's looked better and he's gotten more rebounds and he's been playing bigger. But he ain't Vooch, and Vooch is still going to put him in his place in that sense. So that's why I'm sticking with his points in this one. He's shot way above his pay grade this season. There's no question that Vooch is not a 45% three-point shooter. He's really not a 60% field goal percentage shooter. I get all that. The efficiency is through the roof, but the volume is still there. He's still at the 15 shots per game. He's still taking more than 4 threes per game. Doesn't get to the line. Never has. Never will. That's why I've never liked betting on him. But this is a game that like pace and space has turned into his friend this season for Vooch with the way that he's playing above the break a lot more. I think if Joval's out there, yeah, he brings him out to the 3-point line a bit more. And if Sarr is in there, then he takes him down low a lot more. And I like focusing on him because he's the only one doing what he does on the team. And I hate that Kobe and Zach LaVine have a lot of crossover, that they kind of do the same stuff. They have very similar places on the floor that they want to work from. Vooch is the only one doing what he's doing from where he's doing it. So if you give him another 34, 35 minutes in this one, in an up and down game, I'm going to take him when there's going to be 106 possessions per team in this game. So I like that.
Yeah, and another guy who is looking at assists as a potential tack on here. Sure. I mean, if you don't like the 20.5, you could add 2 assists to that, and he has multiple assists in 8 straight. You talk about the pace and space and not getting to the line. Well, that's fine if in this system for him, if he just wants to be that facilitator from the high post, and he's got hot shooters, spraying out to LaVine, to Kobe White in a very good matchup there. So I think the assist might be good. You can get serious plus money for him to get 4 dimes here. But I will go under on the assists and rebounds for Keontae George. 9.5 is the number. Saw 10.5 for a minute. It might be out there if you eat the juice, but I trust this. I mean, I think he's going to get the clamps tonight. Already the 4th matchup with the Spurs, and now because Vassell is out, like it's Champagny and Stefan Castle all over you. I think that the Spurs will deploy them on George rather than Sexton, who's just kind of been quiet lately. But the reason I'm leaving the points out is because the usage has been alarmingly high for George and should continue to rise with Clarkson out. I expect him to be very inefficient like he was last time. 6 for 18 from the field, 3 for 12 from deep. But if he's shooting more, obviously you can't get dimes. He's not really a factor rebounding. He's 14th of 15 players on the roster in adjusted rebound percentage. Shout out to Svi Mikalik, who is 15th in there in like 5 minutes on the season.
Oh boy.
But that goes up, that translates to 2.8 boards per game on 6.5 chances, only a half of a contested rebound per game. So he's not mixing it up down there. Smaller guy in a game that should have plenty of trees out there, right? With Wemby back, and you got Walker Kessler. For the Jazz front line is now huge if they're playing Collins, Markkanen, and Walker at the same time, right? Which they've done these last couple games. That's not going to lead to many rebound opportunities for him. And the assists, like that Spurs defense has been nice lately. I mean, number 1 limiting assists to point guards in the last 7, number 2 overall assists, number 3 3-point percentage. And we're getting an inflated number on George because he's coming off a 9 assist outlier where the Jazz shot 56% from 3 against your Knickerbockers, immediately bounced back and crushed the Nuggets. Great. But I mean, that was just like a what are you doing defensive game, which we've seen a few times from the Knicks this year, including the opener at the Celtics. And so, I mean, you're really in due for regression here, especially when you look at his numbers, 5 assists per game in 3 versus the Spurs on just 6.5 potential assists. You don't usually see such a small margin for error when you look at these potentials versus the actual assists. So that is huge danger if you were to take the over on George, expecting the same thing here. I think that the Spurs are going to slow him down here tonight.
It's a good look. Yeah. And in the Spurs, you really got to pinpoint when it's Vassell getting minutes versus some of the guys that are a little bit better defenders. Malachi Branham is a turnstile. So when he's getting minutes, that sucks. But he's actually been relegated a bit as you've seen Blake Wesley come forward. Why do I know so many Spurs players? They're looking pretty good, honestly. Like they're on defense, especially. That's where they're looking just like not the same team as last year, obviously. And Wemby being up there is massive. There ain't gonna be no lobs at the rim to Blocker Kessler. Let's put it that way. You ain't throwing that ball over Wemby to anybody when he's coming out from the basket to defend. And George loves to get into the paint, and that's not a good place to be against Wembanyama. So let me close it out with a guy who doesn't have props yet, but I want to mention Joval because I think he's a good bet in this game for 2 reasons. One, I got to see the line. Am I going to get a good line? He's been getting high lines lately, and if it goes back down because he's been going under as of late, like it's been 11.5 points and 8.5 boards, 9.5 boards, where for the most part this season it's been at 7.5 rebounds and about 8 to 9.5 points. And if I get those 2 lines or better, I like both of them for Joval. So I just want to bring that up because I know he's at about 20 minutes on the season. He's at exactly 20 minutes on the season. And when he's played more minutes though, in the games where you see him needed to defend the other team's center. Like if you look at the teams that he's had a few more minutes against this season, we're talking about like the T-Wolves, the Cavs, like teams that have bigger guys that you want him in there for. So that's what I believe in for Joval in this one, is that we're looking at least 20 minutes, and that's all I need. Because if you look at his numbers versus Vooch in the last like 8 games, absolute killer against this man. And I wanted to see, okay, so his minutes were about 30 per game in the last 4 alone versus Vooch, at about 18 points per game, 12 boards per game, 30 minutes. So that's about 0.6 points per minute, 0.4 rebounds per minute. You can use that to just go ahead and extrapolate out to, let's say, 20 minutes. 20 minutes for him at his career numbers, and really his numbers against Vooch, which are the same as they are this season, by the way. Like his season stats right now are the same as how he's been performing against Vooch. We're looking at about 11.7 points and about 7.8 rebounds. And I think you get a little bit of a bump here in a game that's going to have a ton of possessions. You give him 3 to 5 more minutes because he's out there. If Vooch is just torching Alexander Sarr, you have to put Vooch out there. And they've played those two alongside each other enough that I think it makes perfect sense. If Jordan Poole is out, you have no problem now, because I would just literally be putting Joval in for some more height in that situation. And then you can still play him alongside like Brogdon, Koulibaly, Kuzma. You're still good to go, even if you have Sarr in there as your 4, which would be great for Sarr, because guess who's awful against the 4? Chicago. And they don't even have their starting power forward in Pat Williams, who's out. So I think Sarr is also a good look here, but I'm waiting. I wanted to bring up that Joval is a good look, even at the minutes that he might be looking at here. Like, I think it's going to be 22 to 23, not 20. Even those couple extra minutes, another board, that gets you another board, gets you another point. And I think that's going to be helpful here. If you get 7.5 rebounds, 9.5 points or better for Vooch, that's a good look for me.
Yeah, so I guess tune in Josh's Land Your Bets channel this afternoon when we get the actual number, and we'll see if he likes it or not. I mean, I will say Joval was the reason I stopped researching Vooch to score a bunch, because I was like, because I forecast more minutes for Valanciunas if the Wizards are going to be more serious, which they were in this NBA Cup game on Friday against the Celtics, gave them a good run.
Sure were.
So if you're serious, more Joval, more Brogdon, and less of these young guys, including Sarr. So I think, you can forecast a few more minutes for him, and he's been more efficient on a per minute basis. Realize 5 game slate. We have not touched on the one game because Josh is on a strict no heat diet. But I found something if you want to go for that game. -120 for Giannis to lead all scorers. And I mean, the man is a 40% usage rate in his last 6. Bam Adebayo has not been the same player defensively. The Heat are an average defense. Nobody's stopping Giannis right now. I don't think Dame's going to outscore him. Tyler Hero going to outscore him? I mean, the Bucks, it's possible. I wouldn't say no.
Maybe.
But the Bucks have been much better defensively lately, as they've kind of righted the ship. So I think that's fine for -120 at FanDuel if you want to look in that game.
If you want some support there, if you look at the Heat's leading scorer, like who's the leading scorer for their team throughout the season, I don't know if it's been the same person more than like 3 times that it was. I mean, Tyler Hero is your best bet, but then there's those random games that Jimmy Butler's like, you know what? I think I'll step out from the corner and start playing a little bit harder and being more involved in the offense. And now he's got 26, and that's why I'm on a strict no heat diet. But I like anybody on the other side. If you want to bet on the other team, go for it. And Giannis is a usage monster right now. Like, could not be stopped. So I love looking at Yanni Boo-Boo in this one as well. But that's all the time we have for you in Playa Props. Also have best bets up in a separate episode. So make sure to subscribe to that page. Don't miss any of the NFL Playa Prop action we're bringing you for Thanksgiving as well. Until we see you next, happy betting.